Welcome back to another episode of Detection and Dispatch, where we talk about all things detection engineering, threat hunting, thrunting, SecOps in general, with obviously a little bit of fun along the way. I'm your host, Alex Hurtado. Today, we have our first episode to kick off this incredible lineup that we've planned here exclusively to celebrate International Women's Month on Detection and Dispatch. We're shining the light or the spotlight on all of the women or a lot of women that are not only driving the future of threat hunting and detection engineering, but they're quite literally building frameworks around it and community around it all. So I'm so excited to be joined by Lauren Proehl. She's the director of global cyber defense at a major financial institution, financial organization, but most importantly, the founder of what we're going to be talking about today, of the Thor Collective. Lauren, welcome to our show, to our podcast. We are so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm thrilled to be here. Detection Engineering Dispatch has been an awesome podcast. I've been following along, and I do have a small title update. I actually just got promoted in between when we first talked in this recording, so I'm now the global head of detection and response.
Oh my God! Major congrats to you. Very well deserved.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good times.
It really is, especially around this month. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is perfectly timely. And I know we've got a live audience here, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, well, I am a founder. I'm also a co-founder. So I have several other amazing folks working on Thor Collective and HEARTH with me. Sydney Marone and John Grigeta are really the heart of this project as well.
Absolutely love that. Sydney Marone is going to be on Dispatch later this month, so cannot wait to have her on. For those of us on the phone that haven't heard of the Thor Collective or Lauren's Hearth, or no, Sydney corrected me the way that I said this. I think I've been saying it wrong.
I think Sydney and I have different accents because I'm in the Midwest, and so I say Hearth. Sydney has been saying Hearth. I don't think it really matters. As long as you spell it, you'll get it on GitHub.
Got it. Which is a GitHub repo that you're absolutely going to want to fork and want to get involved with, right? Contribute to. It's a community community-driven threat hunting project. And it's all about this space for our practitioners, right, to collaborate, share intel, and obviously evolve their detection strategies, which we can really benefit from, right? Threat hunting is about just getting inspo from things for different hunts. And we really need a lot of that all the time. It's a true art form, as we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what can you expect from this episode? We are going to dive into, we want to get to know Lauren a little bit. I'm going to ask her a little bit about her and how she got into this Thor Collective, the Hearth, and also open up a discussion to how it aligns with obviously our world, the detection engineering world, where threat hunting ends, where detection engineering begins, and the human intuition of it all, really, that I get really excited about, especially in the age of automation and AI. If you guys want to stay for the rest of the episode, I fully encourage you to do that. Get the tea and stay until the end for some actual tea, because we've got a little bit of a gift for the ladies, if you're a lady, or for the ladies in your life. We want to give you a gift to basically be able to snag some tea and gift anybody that you would like to support in celebration of International Women's Month. Lauren, you told us a little bit about you, but we want to know here on Dispatch, a lot of our community they're practitioner focused. They're in the grunt work building detections. They're threat hunting as well. What inspired you to go into this world, this industry, and what keeps you passionate about doing what you do today?
Yeah, so it was really an accident getting into cybersecurity. Growing up, I loved computers. I was obsessed with The Sims 2, like all good millennial kids were. And my dad was like, listen, you can't play The Sims 2 for 18 hours a day. Like, this just doesn't work. And I was like, I don't believe in that. So I learned to hack to basically play The Sims 2. I used rainbow tables. I used a whole bunch of stuff to get around that. Sorry, there's some noise going on outside. And I slowly developed my skills. And as I was looking at colleges, my dad was like, hey, why don't you go to computers? This is 2010-ish timeframe. So it was just starting to take off. I didn't want to be a developer. And I ended up going to Murray State University for telecommunications systems management, which is a huge mouthful, basically to say, I went to be the person that runs cables under desks. It was a formal CCNA program for 4 years, essentially. And I was going to configure routers. And in my junior year, my professor, Wes Spencer, I had 2 security classes. This whole 4-year program, he's, hey, you should look at cybersecurity. It's a thing. Long story short, I ended up loving it, took all the classes that were available, got an internship, started as a SOC analyst. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I can help people, I can protect people, I can work
Yeah.
with all my friends, and I can make a pretty good salary doing it. So that
Oh,
certainly
absolutely.
helps, right? And so that's where we came to today. I've been a SOC analyst, I've been a threat hunter, I've been a manager, director, mostly in the management side of house now because I want to help the people that are boots on ground. I really believe at my core that everyone, I say everyone is a SOC analyst first, but everyone is essentially a frontline defender first. And my job is to empower and enable those folks. And that's what keeps me passionate, seeing people like Sydney. I see Jordan Fuentes is on here. He's one of the analysts that I first started working with, seeing how people grow and evolve and the talent that we have this in this industry and how the demographics have changed since I've even been in. That's what keeps me passionate. That's why I continue to do what I do today.
I absolutely love that. I can't stress enough how much it's changing and so quickly too. And I've never been surrounded by a community with so much sophisticated and incredibly talented and smart individuals. If you're constantly around smart people, it just inspires you so much every single day.
Yeah, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. So I like to hire people that are much smarter than me and surround myself with them and I learn and grow. And that's a lot of what my life is revolved around is just learning from the best.
Oh, I love that. And I also just, it took me back about The Sims. I remember I also do love The Sims. I would rebuild the Twilight. I also was like a big Twilight freak. I would rebuild like the Twilight basically sets, like the houses, Edward's house, Bella's house, and in on Sims. And it was pretty spot on.
Yeah,
And
there's so many opportunities. I'm glad to hear you're a Twilight fan. I feel like that's finally becoming cool to say again. It's just been, we don't talk about that cringe period in time, but I love Twilight. I'm not afraid to say it.
my Gen Z nieces, Gen Alpha nieces, still think it's very millennial coded till Twilight.
Maybe that's fine. So are like, I guess, skinny jeans and side parts, but I'm not letting them
Exactly.
go.
Me neither. Literally, me in a side part today. Thank you, Lauren, for sharing with us a little bit about you. We want to talk about Hearth. What it seems like you're working on something super duper cool with Sydney and Jordan and a lot of your team. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Hearth was really a genesis of we wanted to help people who were just getting into threat hunting or who maybe needed some more ideas for their threat hunting. I'm very sorry, this is super loud outside my window. And the idea I had one night was, hey, we need to give people like a cheat code to start with
Yeah.
threat hunting, essentially. Because I find a lot of people are like, hey, I ran some queries I found on GitHub. They didn't find anything. I feel bad now that I didn't find anything because I want to threat hunt, find something better. What's going on? And so we sat down and I called up Sydney and I called up John, who are the original Thor. We were the threat hunting operations and research team at CenturyLink, the internal hunting team. I said, hey, I have this idea. Do you think it would be helpful? Do you think this is something that would be good? And they were like, yes, I love it. Let's go in. Let's help people. This is amazing. So we sat down and we are like, what does this look like? What does it really look like to give people a starting point in a threat hunt? And Hearth was born. It was just like magic. Everyone bought in, they got behind the mission. And we've really focused on making it a community driven approach to shortcutting threat hunting, essentially.
I love that. So I think that it's so hard to figure out where to start. If you have this piling backlog of things to do or something you've inherited along the way, but getting to the actual threat hunting part, I think is what's most exciting. And from our state of and what I'm thinking about from our state of detection engineering report, we asked so many threat hunters, so many detection engineers, a lot of which partook in this report. What do they like to do? What do they hate to do about their job? And surprise, like threat hunting was at the very top in addition to building detection. So that's what they want to do, but it's almost I feel like that's what it's almost an afterthought. Like they have to deal with all of this backlog first before they even get to finding the time or the resources to start to threat hunt, which is the most fun part of their job.
Yeah, I find that people really love threat hunting, especially if they're investigation minded. Like this satisfies their appetite. But one thing that we're really strong and really want to reinforce both with Thor Collective and with the Hearth Project is threat hunting is more than just going and saying, hey, I think there's a Russian APT in my
Mhm.
environment, right? Yeah, that's okay. Okay, let's find the Russian APT. But the whole point of threat hunting is to be proactive and then
Yeah.
address security gaps along the way. Well, a lot of people love hunting for that Russian APT, excuse me, there's this whole other part that you need to work with your detection engineers. You need to work with your incident responders. You need to make sure that you're putting back into your organization. And it's not just operating in a bubble saying, hey, I went and ran some Splunk queries and I didn't find anything. There's a whole bunch more to this, excuse me.
No, of course, you almost can't do one without the other. I love seeing how well integrated the teams are, and I guess they've reported to be the top two teams that detection engineers are collaborating with the most are the IR team and the threat hunting team. So the more that they collaborate, the more they could see that bigger picture of the organization, also determining the priority of it. But of course, threat hunting looks so different from organization to organization. I was showing Jeanette this morning this interesting Reddit post. It was like, what does threat hunting look like at your org? And this is like a pretty hilariously spot on example of what people were saying. It's like the boss has this new report about a mole rat, and the team maybe can't really tell you right about it right now. And then now you got to triple and double check and quadruple check. And then once you finally come up with a report, and then you go off and you hire another external agency to tell you pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, this is a, a sad state. And look, I always say, no matter what sides of your org, you can do some version of threat hunting. You just need dedicated time to do it. It's really interesting because this post hits home for a lot of folks listening to this, I'm sure. But one of the cool things, and one thing I'll pitch Hearth on is we talk a lot about in the Thor Collective dispatches, selling yourself to your management so they don't feel like they have to quadruple check you. It takes a long time to establish that trust with your management. Speaking as management, I'm the they here, guys, sorry. But it takes a long time to do this. And I wish management would just come out and trust you. But the hard part is right now with all the threat actors out in there and all the regulation that's happening globally, if you don't quadruple check, it's almost like you're opening yourself up for potential future problems.
Yeah, I totally spot on there. For as far as these threats goes, so it doesn't have to be this way. We have now a community, right? Enter the Thor Collective of all of these different ideas that you can start from, and from obviously practitioners that know the surfaces the best. What kind of things can we find on here? What detection services are included? There's obviously many different types of hunts, but tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about this structure.
Yeah, so HEARTH stands for the Hunting Exchange and Research Threat Hub. And Sydney, John, and I have seeded this with a ton of threat hunting, essentially ideas that we've run personally or seen run in organizations that work. And what we've done is we've broken them out into, you'll see here, flames, embers, and alchemy. And this follows along with the Peak framework, Peak Threat Hunting Framework released by Splunk, just because it's very organized. If you have been in hunting for a long time, you'll remember the squirrel threat hunting framework.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was great. Like they are the grandfathers of threat hunting. Bow down. I say my prayers to them every night. But definitely the framework could have been updated a little bit. And that's what Peak has done, right? It's brought it into the modern times of hunting. We have hypothesis-driven investigation ideas, which is flames. That's usually one of the easiest places for people to start. It's very much, hey, somebody is running malware on a Windows desktop and it is beaconing back home. It's very
Mm,
specific. I liken these to essentially putting up the bumpers on a bowling alley. I can't guarantee you're gonna strike out, right? You're not gonna get a strike, but you're gonna hit a pin or two with these.
mm.
Very focused, very directed. You can get these done usually in a week or two and then take your time to report your findings and document everything. With the embers, we then get into environment baselining and more exploratory things. And this is saying something like, hey, I want to know what Windows applications are running in this newly acquired business, for example.
Mm.
Like what's normal look like? And then you can work down into there. It's really helpful to do that first when you are maybe new to an organization. You get a new tool and you need to understand what it's finding. You acquire a new business, or you just like have this strange business unit that does all these spooky things and you're not really sure what's happening over there because they've been super secretive. And then alchemy is our favorite, which is model assisted and algorithmic approaches to threat detection or math. Sydney is a master of the math threat hunts. It really does take an algorithmic approach, and you can use this to find like anomalies in local logon activities, for example, and see where, hey, maybe this one is operating at 2x the rate of another. There's a lot in there to help drive you. And so each of these have different maturity levels. And it's not just Sydney, John, and I that have submitted. We've got several people who have experience threat hunting or in threat intelligence or SOC or incident response that have now submitted ideas to this. And we would love to have more people submit because you get a really awesome sticker or two. You get a custom number in the Hearth project that you can put on your LinkedIn bio and refer back to. We're very big about making sure that you can promote this for contributing to the community. And you get the good vibes of giving back to other people who are looking for help with their threat hunting.
Which is what we're all about here on Dispatch. So for our listeners who are predominantly building detections, they've got probably an arsenal of detection ideas or threat hunting ideas under their belt. Nothing more rewarding, right, than giving back to the community an idea that someone very much else can make use of. And there's so many different iterations of it too, which is the hypothesis driven hunting. A lot of this can be what inspired by maybe threat groups. I'm sure that you're putting in the sources of where you're getting the inspo from and mapping them to these threat groups or threat actors.
Yep.
But of course, hard to do single at once, right? With so much going on and with so many detections at once, it's not uncommon to run hundreds, if not thousands of detections from even our own customers' deployments. So anytime we do model assisted or any kind of math assisted things that will surface up some suspicious and anomalous events is going to be so key, especially when it comes to scaling. So I'm super, super excited about all of the work Sydney has done with these, and which, by the way, she'll be talking about at the end of the month. She's the third in our lineup for International Women's Month. We're super, super excited about that episode. And of course, and it's super, super relevant with all of the work that's been going on around AI and even agentic AI, which is, I guess, the new thing. But I am super, super loving as well these naming conventions. I don't know why, to me it's like giving Throne of Glass, like Sarah J. Maas,
Oh, very.
which I'm like chronically obsessed with as well.
Oh, she's amazing. Yes, it's very like the whole thing is, right, contribute to the community project, keep the hearth burning, keep other threat hunters warm or thrunters warm, right? We're all in this together. The reality is like our common enemy is the bad guys. They are the hackers that are trying to get in an organization or trying to get into journalist accounts or whatever. We got to join up. And that's the whole point of this, right? I hope I learned something from this because Sydney will submit something. I was like, oh my God, I never even thought about doing this, right? An awesome concept. So that's our hope for other folks.
There's so much we can learn from each other. Just hearing you talk about your team, like you, Sydney, Jordan, is how much you guys are learning from each other. And that's how the community should be.
Yes.
Nothing makes me more mad than when people, what's that word? When they gatekeep things.
Yep. Yeah, we've really wanted to put as much out there as possible. And you'll see that with the Thor Collective Dispatch, the Substack that we run. It's all about, cool, there's other notes that we can share. So while Hearth is very focused on, hey, if you're interested in getting specific threat hunting ideas, in the Dispatch, we really go into, hey, let's talk about from a manager's point of view, what does your manager care about seeing when you finish a hunt? Like, how can you sell yourself? We're getting into, we ran a workshop at DEF CON and giving that out to people, giving them more scenarios that they can run through, what to expect, how to do the Splunk queries, like how do I sift through piles of data? And we always welcome guest contributors there. Because again, this is all about community. And that's Sydney, John, and I's real purpose here is how do we bring the community together? And then how do we make each other better for what we're doing?
And DEF CON, I gotta say, is the perfect space for that. I just being at DEF CON last year, that filled up our lineup of speakers here on Dispatch for months and months. Everyone is, and also is pretty much on the same page about wanting to give back to the community, especially at DEF CON. So that is my favorite event of the entire year.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a really good event.
So for the folks and the listeners that want to participate, they want to get involved with the Hearth and the broader Thor Collective community, you can absolutely join, submit your ideas, submit your opinionated pieces and blogs to Lauren and to Sydney, and definitely get involved. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the detection engineering, when that kind of comes into play for when you do one versus the other, when one starts, when one ends. There's obviously different ways to go about it. And Alex Terexia and like the Florian Roths of the world, they will basically say, or I should have pulled up his meme because I'm thinking of that guy who's like sitting on this like plastic chair, and it's like, I'm waiting for you to convince me otherwise, because he's on the same page of every threat hunt is actually just an undeployed detection, or it should be like that's where you want to eventually get to, is an ongoing and scheduled detection where you're protective of on an actively ongoing basis. But that necessarily doesn't have to be the case. Of course, that's where it's the end goal you want to get to. But sometimes you're just exploring, you're threat hunting, you're answering different types of questions, and you're learning, right, about the environment so that you can think of a better thought out detection that's worth the compute resources.
Yeah, that's spot on. I always say every threat hunt must have an output, and that goes along. Most of them should be detections for your reactive team. If I feel like if I'm threat hunting something the same way over and over again, that's an opportunity to make a detection and really partner with my detection engineering team. So that should be one of the key outputs that you have out of each of your threat hunts, in my opinion.
Yeah, I always think about, okay, what does it take to productionize this alert, this threat hunt? When does it get graduated into an actual ongoing query? And I guess it's hard to say, because it's like when it's worthy of it, but then what dictates when it's worthy of it? Because we don't. It really depends, and I guess that also has to do with the budget and the compute resources that you have. But that's the key question, always.
Yeah, and the answer, no one's gonna, I can already hear everyone groaning when I say this, but the answer is it depends.
It
Depends on a
does.
lot of resources, right? For a big Fortune 500, you might be able to take on and productionize a kind of more volatile detection because you've
Yeah.
got compute resources, you've got a team of 50 people to help with
Right.
that. But if you're at a small shop, you can't take that risk. You're going to be flooded. But that's why it's really important, like Alex, you mentioned, threat hunters and detection engineers need to partner.
They
Incident
do.
response needs to partner. You should be having, honestly, in my opinion, you should be having weeklies with your teams if you're either one of these, and talking about what's working, what's not working. Have an open and honest communication about detection. Give constant feedback on this.
Agree. Some folks on our team, they have created these types of synergy circles, they call it. And that's the only way I understand the word synergy, by the way. Otherwise, I still don't understand it. But they created these synergy circles where they meet with their IR team, their threat hunting team, and their threat research team, and then, of course, the detection engineering team on a weekly basis. And they talk about the noisiest rules, obviously, is the top of mind. But then they also talk about what is the priority in terms of what net new they can start to build and threat hunt. And it's scheduled for 30 minutes. They said it's scheduled for 30 minutes every week, and it usually goes to an hour or more.
That's amazing. I think I'm going to steal that synergy circle concept because that's really a great way to describe this.
And the only other thing I would add, I was pulling our internal purple team, and I was asking them these kind of questions. I'm like, I'm going to talk to Lauren about this. What is there anything you guys would like to add to this graduating of a threat hunt into a scheduled ongoing query? And they said that when the majority of its results are worthy of an investigation and all of the false positives have then been tuned out, that's when it can become an ongoing detection query.
I love that. That's a really solid, it's much better than my answer. It depends, right?
I forgot that they mentioned that. He just texted me. He's like, "Wait, are you gonna say my answer?" I'm like, "No, yes, sorry, I'm gonna say it."
That's a great answer. I like that a lot.
I think that's all the questions I've had. Oh no, do you have any advice? Because we have so many threat hunters in this community, and obviously the on-demand listeners that have tuned in for the episode. Any advice that you would give them, aspiring threat hunters that are looking to make this impact on their field? If you could teach them something, what would it be?
Yeah, so I have two pieces of advice and they intertwine. Number one is get involved in the community. You don't have to get involved with Thor Collective and Hearth, although I think you should. I think we are one of the most accessible community projects for people who aren't in threat hunting yet and are looking to get into it, or people who have been in it a long time to really start to contribute and get feedback, participate in the community. I think we've tried to make it a really easy bar for people to learn and grow in their threat hunting experience. But if you don't want to do that, things like DEF CON, Black Hat, DEF CON that a couple of folks run out of Seattle, right? Local B-sides, get involved in the community and see what other people are doing. There's threat hunting Slacks that you can join. There's the threat hunting hashtag, which you'll see Sydney, John, and I all over the last 2 months, right? Get involved in the community and see what you can learn and pick up. And then secondarily is be persistently curious. And persistent is the key here. A lot of people get a bit discouraged because you'll hear commonly that threat hunting is not an entry-level job, or you need to be doing SOC work for 15 years and then you can go into threat hunting. And I don't believe that. I do believe anyone can threat hunt. We can teach that. But if you're not persistently curious, it's going to be a lot harder for you to go through that. If you're a SOC analyst, how deep are you going in your investigations? Ask why, ask what, see what else you can do with that. Run the queries off of Hearth. See if you can find what we're looking for. Go read articles, go read blogs. And that's going to take you a lot further than saying, oh, I know all of the SPL modifiers for visualization in Splunk.
I love that so much. I to be objectively curious, I is what I feel like everyone has in common is that is working in this space. That's really what it's about. And I would even go for me personally, is I would go as far as being nosy. I don't know if you like White Lotus. I am so chronically obsessed with White Lotus because you are so in people's business. Like their finances. You know why some guy was in a money laundering scandal, like you, and there's so, and you know why somebody is on the is wants to take revenge because somebody killed their dad. Like, that you are so involved in people's business, but also just being curious about just anything is the key to success when it comes to investigations.
Yeah, I love it. I will say, Mike White, if you're listening to this somehow, I will never forgive you for killing off Tanya McCoy. I love Jennifer Coolidge.
I know. I
Her
love her
one's very
so much.
fun.
I was her for Halloween.
Oh my God, I love it. That's amazing.
I know. If you guys enjoy the tea, enjoy the threat hunting tea. Oh, one more question. Before I wasn't into the whole threatened word, but I'm starting to retract. It's growing on me. Are you, do you like threatening? Is that, you like this word?
Threatening. I love threatening. Listen, I think InfoSec and cybersecurity takes itself a little too seriously sometimes.
You're right.
This is a hilariously weird word. I don't feel like I can say it at work, to be totally honest, right? So it's very a community-driven thing, right? We keep it, fronting is for the community, and that's what it's about. So
It
I
is.
like it. Yeah.
It is. Okay. Throwing is a thing, y'all. It's a thing. For those of you that you want to keep the conversation sparked and going about the detection engineering report, there's a lot of threat hunting and detection engineering stats related to salary, related to likes and interests, the challenges, our collective sentiment on AI and automating threat hunting. You can learn more about that in our report, which is completely ungated and free. So wanted to drop in a little bit of promo for that. And finally, for what we've all been waiting for, thank you guys for joining the tea on threat hunting, on Thrunting today. We want to give back to the community and give back to particularly the ladies in our life and thanking them, gifting them for all of the support that they give us every single day. You can scan this QR code to collect your free gift of tea. There's all different kinds of tea. Molly went all over the place with the flavors and the selections, and we wanted to make sure to have that as a gift from us over at Dispatch. You can grab it on this link that also Jeanette's putting in the chat, or just scan it on the QR code. But with that, I want to thank Lauren. Thank you so much for bringing all of your hearth knowledge and your industry expertise, and for building this like marvel like band that you built with Sydney and Jordan and all of your team. That is super, super great to keep up with all of the work that you guys are doing for the community. Of course, that's what we're all about. For our listeners, stay tuned for the end of the month for Sydney's episode. You get to see an exclusive deep dive on the Alchemist repo, where we're going to talk about some model assisted threat hunts and how we can automate some of that. So thank you guys so much. I will see you guys all very, very soon and have a wonderful rest of your day.